Hello, hello, hello. So I'm so excited to be sitting here today with the Chris Vasquez. I'm Jessica Haley, and this is Verified Mindset, all things human optimization and self-mastery. And today I'm so excited to be interviewing a dear friend of mine who is the founder of Quantum, executive recruiting firm for tech startups. He's an investor, a show host, founder of a nonprofit, and a student of all things self-mastery. And I'm really excited to extract value from this human today. You guys have no idea what you're in for. You have no idea. He is going to drop gem after gem after gem. Get your notepad and pen out. This is going to be a really fun show. So Chris, I'm going to throw it to you. Let everybody know a little bit about yourself.
Cool. Thanks for the intro. I'll keep it short. My primary business for people listening is in the recruiting space. So I've been in the game for about 10, 12 years and launched a recruiting firm 3.5 years ago. First time entrepreneur, but had very quick success. And I think a lot of that was due to a lot of the personal development I did before that set me up so well for that. But in a short period of time, we built one of the top executive recruiting firms in the world and focus a lot in AI, crypto, SaaS, work with some incredible founders. Basically helping them build their teams, companies. Oftentimes we'll take equity instead of cash and actually be more so built a venture equity portfolio, backed by a lot of the top tier one investors like Sequoia, Andreessen, Bessemer, et cetera. But basically what we do all day is just work with founders, help them take their companies from small seed stage companies and do public iconic companies and share on the upside there. That's primarily what I do. And then I did a nonprofit in the past and I do some philanthropic work as well. But I'm just obsessed with greatness and building great companies, whether it's mine or the founders that we serve. And I'm obsessed with mindset, personal growth, and just how do you live an exceptional life, right? A great life on a macro level. So that's a little bit about me.
I have watched your journey over the last however many years, and it has been so cool to see the quantum leaps that you have taken in your life and your business. And I've gotten to sit kind of in the stands and observe this game of life that you have played, and you play at such a ridiculously high level. And so I'm really excited because I feel like you're going to bring so much perspective into this conversation around self-mastery and around human optimization and around habits and around identity and around quantum leaps. And so I kind of want to start in that arena talking about quantum leaps. Like, how do you create these tangible quantum leaps in your life and your business?
I love this topic. So I literally named my company Quantum because I'm so obsessed with this, right? Like I think life is too short to approach it from an incremental lens, right? I don't want to get 10% better each year or add 10 to my salary each year or help a company 2X. Like I want the 100Xs. I want to see what the edge of my potential looks like. I want the moonshots. Like I want exponential. Like life is exponential for me. It's about progress and growth at quantum levels. And that's what keeps it exciting for me. So just 3.5 years ago, to paint a picture, I was an employee at a company. It's a good company. I was making hundreds of thousands of dollars, not having to work too hard. But I just knew I was way below my potential. And I had this gnawing voice in my head that just said, you got to go do something bigger. Like listen to your visions and go out there and execute and take some risks and see what you're capable of. Because the visions of the companies I was working in never seemed big enough for me. They just didn't excite me. And I wasn't lit up, when you're lit up because you're living in your potential, you're actually going after what you think is possible. And so when I first started the company, you can't always see the full picture at first, right? Like I think life is like a spiral staircase. You have to take the first 5 steps and then you can see around the corner and then you can see the next 5 steps. And then you take those 5 steps and then you can see the next 5. So you can't see the immaculate vision for your life or what your potential truly is until you take those first 5 steps. And so for me, I just wanted to go from an employee to a successful solopreneur. I was like, I want to make $1 million a year. That was my first target. And I want to do it on my terms with no boss and be able to travel and all that stuff. I was able to do that pretty quick. And then from there, I was like, wow, what's the next step? I want to get to 10 million a year. I want to do it with an elite team. I want to serve a whole different level tier of clients. And then from there, it's like, okay, cool. I want to build the number one company in the world in our space. And I want to redefine the model and actually create a disruptive company that reshapes how executive search and how building companies is done from a talent perspective, right? So the vision just kept getting bigger. But I think the lesson there is, one, you got to keep taking steps to start seeing what that vision looks like. But I look at taking quantum leaps from a very practical level too. Because the underpinnings of a quantum leap requires you to change, right? It requires change of the person, right? So a employee versus a solopreneur making 100 grand versus 1 million versus 10 million versus 100 million. Those are very different people, right? Different ways of thinking, different ways of being. Your actions, your priorities have to change. So you can really look at life like a video game. It's like, okay, level 1 version of you, level 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 20. Like, what do each of those versions think? What do they believe? What do they do? How do they act? What actions do they prioritize? And often what got you there won't get you to the next phase, right? So you have to stop doing the things that made you successful at one level to then retool and redevelop your mind and your behaviors to reach the next level. And so the most practical thing that I did to force this, I said, okay, first, I want to have my first $100,000 month. I've never done that in my life, right? And I use these material, physical goals because I think that material results are evidence of spiritual evolution. If you really spiritually and personally grew, you're going to see the results in the physical plane. It's just evidence that you actually had that evolution. And so I said, okay, how do I do 100 grand a month? I've never done that before. As soon as I hit that, I was like, okay, great. How do I do 500 grand a month? Right. And in looking at how do I hit the same goal in a compressed time frame, a very compressed time frame, not like, hey, how do I hit 120 grand in a month? Right. That's not a quantum leap, but 5x 100 to 500 is a quantum leap, right? It's a big, big, big change. So I'm like, what would I have to do? How would I have to operate? Like, what creative things would I have to do and change about my behaviors? And is it my business model? Is it the types of clients I go after? Is it hiring a team? You fundamentally have to think and behave differently to achieve outcomes like that. And so I just thought in short-term windows, like, how do I go from 100 a month to 500 a month? Then when I hit that, it's like, how do I get to 1 million a month? When I hit that, it's like, how do I get to 2 million a month? And each time I script out literally what beliefs have to change, right? When it was just me doing 100 grand a month, I believed I was the best in the world and no one could do it better than me. But to get to 1 million a month, I was like, I had to completely shift my belief system and say, hey, I'm no longer going to build my sense of pride on me being the best. I have to be the best team builder. I have to bring the best out of other people. I have to create the best leverage through others. I have to look at massive channel partnerships where I can get 100 clients through one relationship instead of going after 100 individual relationships. And so each one of these levels that you can actually create in your own life, whatever business you're in, whatever goals you have, you can start to script out, like, who would I have to be to achieve this? What beliefs would I have to shift? What behaviors would I have to start doing or stop doing for that level? And you can create whatever arbitrary numbers to ascribe to those levels. But that level of consciousness allows you to really see who you have to become at each inflection point to reach that next level. And so that's how I've thought of it. If you want to if you want to have a quantum leap in life, I think there's 2 quick ways. One is what I already mentioned, is take a goal that's bigger than you've ever done it, bigger than you've ever accomplished before, and figure out how to achieve it in a compressed time frame. Because if I'm telling you, if you make 100 grand in a year and you figure out how to make 100 grand in a month, that is a quantum shift in who you are as a person. Your idea of what's possible just completely got shattered, right? And that is the bedrock for your next quantum leap. Because as you start doing this, you're like, oh shit, everything's possible. Like, everything is just a limitation inside of my mind. Once you start getting in a continuum, a pattern of doing this. The other thing to have quantum leaps is you got to get around other people. It's the law of proximity. You have to get around other people thinking bigger, and you have to elevate your associations and become friends and coworkers and colleagues with people that are at that level, because that's going to transform your idea of what's possible. And it's going to have you on the frequency of those quantum leaps. It's going to have you saying, wow, like, this person is doing this in this time frame. Now I can do it because, like, they're not smarter than me. Right. So I think that proximity is what gives you a lot of these mental unlocks to then think in greater possibilities for yourself. But setting short-term goals and just, how do I do the same goal I just did last week? How do I do that the same result in a day? So just playing around with numbers and time and trying to figure out creative ways to evolve and get the same result in a compressed amount of time is the easiest, most practical way to, like, clearly see your level ups.
So you don't subscribe to like, let's set a realistic goal and then go knock that out. You're like, let me go condense timeframes. Let me go prove to myself that I can make this quantum leap. Because once I go prove to myself in this area of life, I can do this, and I can go translate that into every area of life and then build self-trust in that, and then realize that I'm way more capable of everything that I've ever, wanted in my life. And I
Yes.
then can go do it over and over again. I
Yeah.
subscribe. I'm available for that.
I think like my North Star right now for the company, just to be transparent, like how my mind works, my North Star is to hit 100 million in annual revenue with under 100 people. And that's never been done in the history of my industry ever. There's just never been a firm that's been that elite with that few people achieving those revenue milestones. But that isn't a number that like I can achieve tomorrow. So I don't like to keep thinking about that all the time. That's in the background. I'm like, what are the short-term quantum leaps that I need to achieve to then forward that goal, right? So for me, I like to think in months. Like I keep playing like, hey, what's our annual goal this year? I don't even like to think in annual goals anymore. I'm like, cool. Like, what did I do last month? How do I double that? Right? How do I go from 1 million to 2 million, then 4 million? Like, so I like to think in doubles on a monthly basis, because like then I can sprint. Then it's about like, what can I achieve this month? And those short-term timelines motivate me much more than some massive annual goal that feels so far away. So playing around with how you perceive time, I think, and finding what motivates you can be very powerful.
I love this so much. I'm throwing this one in my truth backpack. I'm going to start looking at areas of my life that I can start condensing time frames and seeing things from a new vantage point and from a new perspective on this is what the norm is for everyone else, but I don't have to subscribe to that. I love this. I'm going to subscribe to this. So yeah, I love this. What are some of the non-obvious things that you've implemented? Because I know that, in business life and in personal life, you've done things to work smarter and not harder, and you've implemented certain skills and certain spiritual elements, certain mindset elements to things that are not as obvious, that you wouldn't necessarily be like, oh, that's going to translate to business success, or that's going to translate to this huge growth in my company. What are some of those non-obvious things? Because I know that you've got a slew of those in your backpack.
100%. And I think this is the biggest misconception, is like, I could give a new hire the playbook. I could say, hey, this is how you make $1 million, $2 million a year. This is the exact steps to follow. And I could give that same playbook to 10 people and they're going to get totally different results. Right. And I'm giving them the exact same information. It's a tried and true playbook. It's not about the playbook or the business tactics most of the time. It has to go back to your identity. Like, this is what I realized. Like, there's Jim Rohn's famous for saying your level of success seldom exceeds your level of personal growth, because success is something that you achieve because of who you are. You attract it, right? And you are the container for your success. If I handed you $2 million and your identity said I'm only worth 500 grand, you would find a way to get rid of that 1.5 million and go back down to your baseline level of what you're comfortable with and what you think you're worth. So for me, I realized that to achieve massive levels of success and continue growing there, I have to first and foremost keep evolving my identity. And that's really your self-image, your self-concept, right? Because in life, you don't get what you want, you get what you think you deserve, and you get who you are, right? And so I've always worked way harder on myself than the business, which for me has really been looking at coaching, reading, therapy, seminars. I think a big thing that's helped for me is understanding your own limiting beliefs and excavating your own past and understanding why you became who you are. And I'll share like a quick 30-second story just to illuminate how powerful this can be. I was 12 in a baseball game, 9th inning, 2 outs, second base. It was a playoff game. It was an important game. It was the world for me. And my teammate hit a pop fly out to center field. I rounded third. My coach waved me in, said, go score. I'm running and I slide, and I do a terrible slide and I get tagged out and we lose the game. And that was like the end of the world for me. I looked at the dugout, my team threw their mitts on the ground. They wouldn't talk to me. They isolated me. Like they wanted nothing to do with me. And I felt such shame that as that 12-year-old, what happened is our team lost the game. I got the last out. But the story that I created around that was that if you ever put me in a position to lead, I will let everybody down. right? So from that point on, unconsciously, until I discovered this when I was 27 through a course, I was living as that 12-year-old kid and avoiding any sort of leadership position. So I wanted to build nonprofits. I wanted to build companies. I wanted to be this leader. I wanted to be great. Like I just knew I was destined for greatness on a massive scale, but I just felt this deep inability and resistance, I would say. And honestly, sabotage anytime I went to go try things. And I realized that was just a bullshit belief that I created as a 12-year-old, but that was literally holding me back in every area of life and stopped me from going after what I truly wanted. So when I dissolved that belief and created a new one, hey, I am a leader, then I had an opportunity to stack evidence in favor of a new belief. So I went and created a nonprofit. I launched my company. I stepped up into leadership roles. I saw myself differently and operated differently. And my whole life opened up from literally uncovering that one belief. And so if I hadn't done that personal work, that inner work, I would have never started the nonprofit, never started this company, because subconsciously, I wouldn't believe that I could pull it off as a leader. So I would somehow figure a way to sabotage myself. And so a lot of us have these things. I still have plenty more blind spots that are stopping me from that next level. So that's why I think it's so important to constantly invest in your mindset and coaches and in getting to people. You know, you can't read the label from inside the bottle. You can't see your own limiting beliefs. You need intelligent, well-trained people to point things out to you to help you see where you need to have your next breakthrough. And so that process of constantly engaging and like self-reflection through journaling, through reading, and really assessing myself, hey, how did I show up today? If I could have done today over again, how would I have done it differently? Just the sheer act of doing that every single day gives you so much consciousness of like how you want to operate in better alignment with the future self that you want to create. And so I think that personal growth is the number one, like anything related to personal development, whether it's coaches, seminars, books, anything, like you got to dive deep into yourself. So many people are studying their business, they're studying their tactics, but they're not studying themselves. They have low self-awareness of who they are. They're not even conscious about their identity or how much they think they're worth. And a good little tool to figure out some of your limiting beliefs is write down your biggest goals and dreams. Suspend belief for a second. Be honest with yourself. Like, what is that vision? What is that thing that you keep thinking about? What do you truly desire? Now, get clear on that and write down why you can't have it. Write down why you can't have it. And you're going to start seeing, as you write down those reasons, all the reasons your subconscious mind is blocking you from having it. And you can start tackling those, right? You can see clearly on paper why you think you can't have those things. And then oftentimes when you write them out, you see how ridiculous they are, and you can kind of dissolve them one at a time. And then you can take actions and actually start creating new evidence in your brain to support the belief that you actually want. So that is one. And then I'll do another quick one. I would say for me, it's less obvious, but it's spirituality. I've noticed that most of the most successful entrepreneurs that I've worked with, and I've worked with quite a few billionaires now, and like a lot of very, very successful people, have some element of spirituality, whether they want to call it God, the universe, just general faith, spirituality, and just, I guess, by more extension, just the world of energy is so important to understand. Like most of us are just in this rat race trying to achieve these financial goals because we think we're going to get certain feelings. We're going to get respect. We're going to get love. We're going to get validation. And we're just chasing these goals in this three-dimensional reality. And we don't even know why we're chasing these things. We're not even aware of the emotional reasons we're pursuing these things. And we think we have to go achieve XYZ to feel XYZ. And we're just working in this three-dimensional plane. And it's such a low level of consciousness. And so when you realize that, as you dive deeper into spirituality, we live in a world of energy, right? And energy influences matter. Energy creates matter, right? Energy is what influences all this, but we're living as matter, trying to change matter. And it's a very slow way about getting what you want, feeling what you want. And so when you really realize this, I recommend diving deep into Joe Dispenza for anyone listening. I'm actually going to his retreat again on Saturday in Cancun. Learn to become conscious of energy and the universal laws and how this whole thing operates at a macro level. Like once you start understanding universal laws and how the world works and how energy works, like the business stuff comes easy because you just learn how the laws work. And when you cooperate with the laws, you get what you want so much faster, right? And so you'll learn about things like energy and frequency and like I'll give you one quick thing that I do just to make it very, very tangible. This is what I do every single morning. And this is like one tactic that I think you can apply right now if you want better results in business while not focusing whatsoever on business. So every morning, this is what I do. I sit down, I get into a very calm state. I try to relax my brain and get out of that beta state where it's critical thinking. And I try to get into that alpha or theta state where I'm extremely relaxed through breathing. And my subconscious mind is more impressionable and I can just relax and focus. And I visualize who I want to be. And I visualize my perfect life. And I visualize my perfect day. And I relax into those visions and start feeling them. And I feel into who I want to be in the future and start feeling that person now. I'm literally conditioning my body biochemically to be this person in the future. So we come back to the idea of collapsing time. In the quantum field, there is no time. And if it sounds mumbly jumbly, I'm sorry, I can't give the full lecture on quantum physics, but in the quantum field, which is what operates this entire universe, there is no time. So you can literally go into this quantum field where you're suspended and you can see yourself building wealth. You can see yourself wealthy with your dream spouse on your jet, with your amazing company, speaking to thousands of people on stage, whatever it is that inspires you, feel into that. And you can start to change your body, your chemistry and your mind to think that those events already happened, which then makes them feel normal to you and attracts those things to you, because your body will repel anything in life and your mind will repel any result in life that it does not feel safe or comfortable having. So you have to condition your body through visualization and through what I call vibrationalization, which is practicing the feelings, the vibrations, what you want, so that when they're around you, it's like, oh yeah, this is normal. You know, if you get into a Lambo 20 times, 30 times, it starts to feel normal. You're more likely to be able to attract that because it's not like you're on the same vibrational level where it feels normal to you. This is all stuff that some people are like, this is complete bullshit, but I'm like, this is how the world works. You attract that at which is on your frequency. So the more exposure you have to things, the more they feel safe and normal to you, the more you can rehearse them and feel into them. That's how to do it. So if you're making, 100 grand in your job and you're a trader and you want to make $1 million, you got to start visualizing what it feels like, what it looks like to have that lifestyle. And you got to get so immersed and obsessed with that vision that you're living into the future and you're already giving gratitude in advance. You already know it's yours. You have so much faith and certainty, which is where spirituality comes into play. And you're just having fun. You're like, this is great. Like, this is already mine. I'm just taking the steps and collapsing time to get there faster, but it's mine. And when you can get your mind and body into those scenarios, I promise you, whatever your result is that you're looking for, it's just going to come to you so much faster. And it's hard to, we can go into science lessons all day on this, but this shit works. And so I would highly encourage anyone listening to spend that time for 30 to 60 minutes every morning, really writing down your vision, clarifying it, visualizing it, feeling into it, studying these materials to understand how the world works, how energy works. Because if you know this shit and your competitors don't, you're playing an entirely different game. You're not even in the same field.
There's a reason that Olympic athletes run the race in their mind 150,000 times before they actually run the race. Mental rehearsal and priming your mind and body for an experience is a real thing. And so is quantum physics. And there's so much science behind all of this that, yes, it's spirituality, but it's also science. Like, if you understand this, you can work so much smarter and not harder. I'm so grateful that you just went down that road. I really want to tie this back to identity. And I want to know tangible ways that someone can go through that identity upgrade. How would someone go through that?
Okay, so there's quite a few ways to do this. Number one, if you want to increase your identity, which is basically your perception of yourself, your associations matter dramatically. So I would say upgrade your environment first. And environment is anything in your physical reality. So that's going to be your relationships is probably the most important. But before that, you might be like, hey, I don't know how to attract millionaires into my life yet. Cool. You got to upgrade your environment in the form of information, right? Because the stuff you listen to and consume, that's part of your environment. That's programming your brain. So stop watching the housewives stuff on whatever network that stuff's on, and like pick up really high quality books from Tony Robbins, Joe Dispenza, Atomic Habits, you name it. Just pick up any good personal growth books that are going to expand your mind and make you a more conscious, elevated human, right? That's going to get your brain thinking, elevate your frequency so that you can attract other people, because successful people all do the same shit. They love learning. They love reading. They're very self-aware. They have growth mindsets. And if you are that person, you can attract more of those people. So first and foremost, you want to upgrade your identity, start doing more stuff like that. And second, stop doing the shit that makes you lose confidence in yourself. Like if you want to upgrade your identity, you have to become somebody that you trust. And that means you have to actually honor your commitments and you have to make a list. Hey, what are the things that I'm doing really well? And what are the things that are holding me back, that are making me lose confidence in myself? Because I say this, success, period, for me, the most simple way I could describe success is when you look in the mirror and you admire the person staring back, period. That's success to me, right? It doesn't matter if you're freaking bankrupt and you just lost your company, if you just went through the worst divorce. It's based on how you're acting, feeling, and thinking. If you are in control and you have a strong positive attitude and you're controlling your actions, what's in your control, and you are honoring your commitments to yourself, regardless of what's going on or how bad things are, that to me is a successful person. And that person, if they continue being that person for long enough, eventually will have those results return to them, right? So it's about being someone you admire. So I think when you're looking at expanding and enhancing your identity so you can have better results, so you can have a higher quality of life, you really have to focus on deduction first. What do you need to stop doing that is making you feel less about yourself? And number one, you got to get into good shape. I'm sorry, there's just no way around this. There's a lot of woke propaganda right now that's glorifying people that are out of shape. You got to get into good shape. You got to have great health. Like you got to look and feel someone that you're proud of. Like there's no workaround here, right? I see billionaires trying to accumulate more money when they're obese, and that's not going to make you feel better. Lose the weight. It's going to make you feel way better than the next billion, right? So like you gotta own yourself and have self-mastery, which is another thing I know you love to talk about, but you gotta learn how to control yourself, get in great shape, get your environment, your associations, enhance those. And it really all stems from that. It really all stems from that. If you just if your simple North Star is just, hey, I want to be somebody that I admire, what do I need to stop doing that's making me lose confidence in myself? And what do I need to start doing that I know I've been called to do, that I've been procrastinating on? If you just make those lists and start doing those things and stop doing those things, you are going to have a massive life breakthrough in a matter of weeks, tops. You're going to completely shift the trajectory of who you are. And the funny thing is you think you have to get the result to feel that way. The moment you start being that person, you feel that way. The moment you start being that person, you immediately, you can literally change your whole course of reality in 24 hours. The moment you commit to this new future version of yourself that you are called to create, and you start being that person right now and thinking, feeling, and doing as that person would, that person's results will be yours in a matter of time. But you're going to be able to look in the mirror every night like, wow, I showed up the way I said I was going to show up today. And that's where you get the validation from. And at that point, you become limitless, you become powerful, confident. And that's when you really start attracting other really powerful people, because really successful, happy, fulfilled people are all like that. They all share that. They admire and they love themselves. So you have to stop doing the shit that makes you hate yourself and start doing more of the shit that makes you love yourself. It's that simple.
Oh man, I have this at my desk right. Ding it.
the money ding.
That's where we're at. That is a drop the mic moment. Oh my gosh, I appreciate you so much for that response. So good. And I think that really drives right into the next question, which is, how do we define success? I know all of us define success slightly different, but what is Chris? How does Chris define success? And then how does one decide how to define success for themselves?
I think the process of figuring out how to define success is a process, and it's different for everybody. So anyone who tries to say there's one way to define success, I think is just limiting from their own limited ego. I think to be successful, the prerequisite is self-awareness. That would require me to know myself enough, which means I've had to go through enough experiences and do a lot of things that I hate and have a lot of pain and struggle to figure out what I like, what I don't like, what makes me happy, what doesn't make me fulfilled, to actually get to the point of like, what does success really mean for me? And I think it can change. It's very amorphous, and it can change throughout your life, right? At one point, success might be defined by being the best dad in the world. Right now, I don't have kids, so it's really hard to make that my metric for success because I'd be failing miserably. So like, I think your success metrics can change, but I think at a fundamental level, you have to become aware of like what actually makes you feel great, right? And that's what it comes down to. So for me, I will say this, success is never one dimensional. If you see a guy on the street with ripped arms, giant biceps, and he has a massive gut, you wouldn't walk up and be like, wow, that guy's super fit just because he has big biceps. But at the same time in society, we see someone with a shit ton of money in the bank account, and we're like, wow, that person's so successful. It's a complete fallacy. Like, one metric does not make you successful. Just because you're super rich or super fit, like, good, you've gotten good at one area of life, but life is multifaceted. And if you're just over index on one area of life, for me, it's hard to call yourself successful, because being successful requires a multitude of things. So for me, first and foremost, it's my health. I've got to be in great health, great shape. I got to have great energy, because if you don't have great energy and great health, you can't enjoy anything. Two, you got to have great relationships. First is the one with yourself, and then it's the ones with your family, your friends, your romantic partners. You got to have amazing relationships. Three, I think you got to do things that you love to do, right? Like, who cares if you're making 100 million a year, but you're doing something you absolutely hate and you're spending all your waking minutes doing things that you absolutely detest, right? So if I gave you $10 billion, you would turn that down for those first three things I mentioned. If I would say, hey, I'll give you $1 billion, but you had to have shitty health, you wouldn't take it. You wouldn't take cancer for $1 billion. I was like, okay, cool. Now you have to have shitty relationships. You're isolated, you're alone, but you get $1 billion. You wouldn't take it. And I'm like, cool, you got $1 billion, but you can't do anything you love to do. You just got to do shit you hate for the rest of your life. You wouldn't take it. So we can clearly see that making money is not the most important thing for success, but it is the thing that enhances all of those other three things I mentioned. So the financial piece for me is very important as well, because I think money magnifies you. So it makes you more of who you already are, and it gives you more options, and it gives you the freedom to express yourself and to figure out what your purpose is, and to spend more time doing things that you love that are in your zone of genius, to invest more in your relationships, to be more generous, and to just live a higher quality life. You can obviously invest in health and all that good stuff a lot easier. But for me, it's a combination. It's great health, great relationships, including the one with myself, especially. It's being able to spend time doing what I love and what I choose to do and live life on my terms. And I think the other underlying component is success is really an emotion at the end of the day. Like, success, it's all arbitrary. It's completely made up. So I would argue that the quality of your emotions is the biggest determining factor in the quality of your life. So if I had $10 billion, I had my jets, my houses, I had the most beautiful wife, I have the most loving family, I've made a huge impact on the world, but inside I feel resentment, guilt, anger, shame, those emotions, I am not successful, right? Because there's something off here, right? And so the funny thing is success often just comes back down to perspective. Like, we all have flowers and we all have weeds in our life. What are you focusing on? Sometimes I'll have 100 flowers and I have one weed. I have one employee issue, or I have one frustrating client, or one thing. And I focus all my attention on that one weed when I have hundreds of beautiful flowers in my garden of life. And so I think at the end of the day, success is completely made up. It's arbitrary. And so your perspective on life, I think, is the most important thing to be successful. Because I would rather have nothing and feel like I had everything than have everything and feel like I have nothing. And so the more I accumulate materially, the more accolades in this material world that I accumulate, the more I also realize that it's not the thing. It's how I feel about those things. And so I think the most important thing to be successful is to really be grateful. Like, your measure of success can really be measured by how grateful you feel for what you have. And ironically, when you feel more grateful, you just attract more of that stuff and you end up becoming more successful on the outside, but it's really generated from a feeling of success and gratitude on the inside.
Oh, gratitude is the ultimate state of receivership. And yes, 1,000%. Oh, I gotta just, like, every single response that you give, my friend. I know that we're running on time. So I want to make sure that I squeeze in these last couple questions, and I'm sure
Sure.
everybody that's listening wants to make more money. And what have been your strategies to truly build real wealth? I know that you have, really incredible infrastructure when it comes to that.
So I think there's a few things to just understand about money that I wish I knew before. I've made plenty of mistakes, and I've had some incredible mentors that have helped correct those and just helped me have better frameworks for how to think about things. I think what's hard at first is like, hey, I want to chase 1,000 things. I see people that like post on Instagram. I have like 7 6-figure businesses. I was like, why wouldn't you just have 1 7-figure business? It's like way more profitable, way easier. So it's funny. I think there's a shiny object syndrome that most people fall into. And then people are like, hey, I want to like start investing. I want to invest a ton of money. And then you end up deviating from your core focus and learn about investing, but you don't have any money to invest, right? So there's certain steps to build wealth, but then the important thing is sequence. Like, what steps do you do and when? Like a grandmaster chess player, I think, understands the next 13 or so moves in advance of that move. So the better you get at chess, the better you get at financial chess, the more moves you can see in advance, and the better you are at sequencing to create better outcomes. So here is my thesis, and people will disagree with this. There's not one way to do this, but this is at least my thesis that I've created based on what's worked for me and what I've seen work for other people on a general level. So number one is you got to develop high income skills first. So the first thing to do is build skill sets that can at least earn you 6 figures, at least. If you get very skilled in certain things, you can make, $1 million plus a year, but you want to develop your skill sets and invest in your skill sets. Don't worry about real estate. Don't worry about crypto. Invest in courses, invest in teachers, and get your skill sets to a point where you can at least make 6 figures. Okay. From there, you want to start figuring out how do you gain leverage, right? What do I do to gain leverage? So that is going to usually entail, there's four forms of leverage. There's human capital, which is hiring people. There's other people's money, which is more so investing or hedge funds or something like that. There's media, and there's technology. So those are the 4 forms of leverage. So you got to figure out, how do you create more leverage to buy back your time and increase your results so you can increase your income, right? Now you can start your own business, or you could operate within an existing business. But my thesis is, if you want to build real wealth, figure out how to make $1 million a year of earned income. Like, really focus on that. And it's hard, but like, it's worth isolating and really going all in. How do you become the best in the world at what you do and become so skilled and so valuable to a particular customer that you can make $1 million a year? And so to backtrack on that, you have to find the right vehicle. So if find the skill set, that skill set could apply to a lot of vehicles. Before you find the leverage, I would actually just make sure you're in the right vehicle. Like, is this vehicle, man, can I even make that much money? Right? Is it door-to-door sales? Is it copywriting? Is it, trading? Figure out if you're in the right vehicle that, one, aligns with your lifestyle and like actually plays into your strengths and you actually like it. Because if you don't like it, if you hate it, you're not going to stick with it long enough to become a master. Right? So find something that you enjoy enough. You're like, okay, cool. And then once you have a right vehicle, then you create leverage, and boom, now you're making $1 million a year. Now you can start focusing on investing, right? Now it's like, now you have real money to invest. If I invest 10 grand a year, yes, you can dollar cost average into the S&P or something, but now you have real money. Now you can invest in crypto, you can invest in real estate for cash flow and incredible, tax benefits and all that stuff. You can invest in stocks, whatever you want. You can work with you can afford an actual family office and like a virtual family office and someone to help you advise you on those investments. And then last after that, I would say that the main focus is on tax strategy. After you've made a shit ton of money, you've got leverage, you've got your time back, you have a life, you're making a bunch of money, you have some investments, you got some cash flow coming in, you have real assets. And the importance of assets, by the way, we all know inflation's real. The only way to build wealth is through assets, because the dollar continues to depreciate in value year over year. So you need assets that appreciate at a faster rate so that you're getting wealthier instead of poorer and keeping all your money in your savings. And then the tax strategy becomes like the game after it all. Because you're like, how do I keep more of this and not the richest people don't pay any taxes. There's real estate, there's land appreciation, there's so many unique tax codes, but eventually you get so good at the tax game that you maintain such a higher percent of that wealth. You don't have to work as hard or make as much money because you're just keeping more of the pie. Right. So you could, like, people can debate what order you want to learn those in. But for me, success really requires maniacal focus. So if you're trying to learn tax strategy and investment strategy and all this stuff, and you're making 80 grand, it's like, for me, it's premature. Like, really focus on a skill set, pick a vehicle that you know has the upside you want, that you enjoy, then figure out how to get even better and more skillful and deploy leverage in that skill set so you can earn 7 figures a year. Then start learning investment strategy and deploy that money against a pool of assets that appreciate and help you build wealth, so you're making money while you sleep. And then figure out tax strategy, so as you continue to get richer and richer, you keep more of that, you can deploy that more into assets, into your lifestyle.
Oof, I love this. I love this. And it kind of goes right into the question that I have of, what's one thing that they did not teach you in school that you had to learn the hard way?
Oh my God. That's a good one. What's one thing they didn't teach me in school? Trigonometry is not as valuable as I thought. Let's see. One thing did not learn in school that I had to learn the hard way. You know what? Tests are bullshit. Like, it's all about application. It's all about application. Like, the whole school system is trained to keep you thinking inside the lines, and you think linear. It trains you to be a great corporate employee of climbing ladders. But it does not teach you that everything that you want is on the other side of risk. Of just taking action and trying things and thinking beyond the limits of what the test is asking you to answer. So what I had to learn is that, cool, you got an A+ on the test. It doesn't mean shit in the real world. Like, you got to go out there and try shit and take risks and follow the beat of your own drum. Like, fuck the test. Why did you even take that test in the first place? Why do we assume that? Yeah. So it's like, I think I had to learn that you can't think linearly, and you can't just go check boxes. You got to, like, actually self-assess yourself and ask yourself what you want, and have the risk tolerance and the faith in yourself to go after it. Right. They won't teach you that in school. They don't want you to be a self-autonomous, thriving individual that is a creative thinker. So I had to learn how to believe in myself and how to take risks. I was not programmed to do that.
When you get into that stretch place, that uncomfortable place, that space where you're really questioning, like, that expanding your capacity spot, what do you do to stay in that level-headed place, to continue moving forward with that trust and that knowing that it's all unfolding, when typically our emotions will kind of kick in a little bit and try to keep us safe, and our physiology is it's there to keep us safe? What do you do to go past that space of discomfort?
That's a freaking great question. I don't think you have, like, I don't think it's level-headed for me. I don't think I'm like, cool, I have all this chaos. Like, I think it's an emotional process, but we only take action because of emotion. Emotion is the only fuel that motivates us to do anything. So the question is, do you desire it or do you fear it more? So, like, I just signed the contract. I'm like, usually, I'll be honest with you, it doesn't have to be this way, but unfortunately it's been this way for me. Usually it's to where I get to a point of disgust, of such anger for myself, where, like, dude, what are you doing? Like, you're going to die one day. Like, stop being such a coward. Like, you want this, that life could be this much better at this level. That so many people are depending on you. You're the example for what's possible for other people. Like, why are you playing it safe? Like, whether it's with my fitness, my business, podcasting, which I've had, I had the craziest amount of resistance and fear in starting my podcast when I first started too. What if I fail? What if I do a shitty interview? Like, what if I look stupid in front of one of my heroes, right? Like, all these fears, but eventually you're like, dude, the fear of not going for it and regretting it has to just be so much more tangible and real than the fear of fucking up. Right. And so you just start fear hacking, like, dude, what's the worst thing that could happen? Okay, I embarrass myself and I look like a fucking idiot, but then I could literally make a post about that and inspire somebody. Like, wow, so there's always a positive turnaround. So I think it's not being this perfect, like, Neo in the Matrix cool guy. Like, for me, it's an emotional process. When you level up, you're literally killing your old self. Your body is vehemently trying to keep you safe and keep you who you were. So those processes are not always sweet, but it always comes down to me is harnessing emotion. It's like, I've got to detest where I'm at. I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I've got to go to this next level. I've got to see what I can do here. That's what it comes down to. It's just embracing those fears and saying, what do I fear more? Being a coward and like looking myself in the mirror and just be like, dude, come on. Or the potential shitty result that I might get, which I've realized always happens when you're trying something new, that I've just come to grips with. So yeah, I think it's just harnessing emotion.
I love that. Do you find when you're in an emotional place, you know, because when we get into the red, it's challenging to really have access to logic in the same way. Do you find when you're in an emotional place, I call it red zone, how do you move back into the green, into that logical accessing possibility place? How does that work for you?
That's a good question, because I don't think you can take big, bold, courageous action or live into a big vision when you're in that low frequency state, right? When you're in that state of fear and survival. So you have to take responsibility for your physiology. So for me, that's why it's critical to be in great shape. Like the pump, the gym, that's the number one way to get my energy up, to feel powerful, to feel in control. The gym is the cure.
Yep.
Like that is the best thing, period. And just stacking wins, right? Like I have a theme for my life called stack it and track it, right? So I have spreadsheets where I'm just like stacking habits and checking them off every day. And I'm like visually seeing all my wins. And I'm like, damn, look at all these
I
wins
love that.
Because so many of us are winning, but we don't even know we're winning because we haven't taught our subconscious mind to evaluate what a win is. So you've done all these amazing things today. You didn't get one result that you wanted and you thought you lost today, but you stacked 14 wins that you didn't actually count and that your subconscious thinks you lost today.
I needed that one today. I needed that one. That I focus on the one thing that I still need to get better at versus all of the things that I win. And you're so right about that. I'm going to start stacking my wins and visually
track it and stack it, like for a week, for a month. Even if it's low key in your iNotes, you don't have to have a beautiful Excel document, all these pivot tables. Even if it's just in your iNotes, like every time you get a win, okay, got up, got my workout in, got my meditation in, did my 2 hours of client outreach today. Boom. Like just all these things that you're doing in your control, just start counting them. But your brain actually rewires from that, because your brain, as you know, automatically defaults to like looking at all the bad shit. It's like, I think 600% more wired to look for negative things. So when you do good things, actually consciously stack them, and that starts to file those away in your subconscious cabinet and give you more confidence.
Amen. I love that. I love that. Okay. So tell me, I could talk to you all day long. Tell everybody that is watching where they can find you. Where can they find Chris Vasquez?
So 2 best spots would be LinkedIn, Chris Vasquez, founder of Quantum, and then Instagram at Chris Vasquez. I'm Chris Vasquez on Twitter. I probably have like 3 tweets. So Instagram and LinkedIn are probably better.
Amazing. Amazing. I just can't thank you for your time. Thank you enough for your time. This has been such an incredible conversation. I know the value that you just added to this audience is unreal. I'm going to go back and rewatch this and take a bunch of notes myself. And so I just can't thank you enough. Thank you so, so much for your time.
Thanks, Jess. Loved it.